Now, the big question is, will these problems be solved even with the amendment of the Universal Basic Education Commission Bill? Now, to answer this question, I'm being joined on the news at 10 by a communication strategist on education, Moturayo, I beg your pardon, Moturayo Alaka. I want to thank you so much indeed for coming on the news at 10.
Thank you.
Now, the figures of out-of-school children in Nigeria is staggering, I would say, but how would you describe the situation as someone who has interfaced with the universal basic at the universal basic education level?
Well, clearly what we have on our hands is a crisis situation. Like you rightly said, we have the highest out-of-school children when you look at the age of less than 15. Globally, if you look at other demographics, we are actually 10th on the list. But when you look at the less than 15-year-old children, and that is the age of basic education, we have the highest in the world. And it is like, really, we have a future, there's a red alert on our future, because those are the future of the country. If most of the future of the country are not getting the necessary equipment to be able to face that future, to be able to build the future, then we are in big trouble. And not just for education, because if the children are not educated, then definitely to show in all areas of our lives. It will show in the crime that we have on our streets. It will show in the value that they are able to pass on even to the generation after them. Perhaps the generation after them would be worse than them then. So really we are in a crisis situation, and it's a red alert situation.
So, but it is a good news that the Senate is trying to amend this. But the question will be again that how far can this proposed budget, or shall I say amendment by the Senate, how far can it go, looking at how well it is looking to begin to fund the education sector?
Well, it will be important to clarify the fact that the main thing about the amendments that the Senate is doing is the increase from 2% to 3% in what is available to you back directly to spend. However, on the whole, I do not see it making an extremely significant impact, because our problem, yes, it's partly funds, but it's more than funds. It's a function of strategy, the function of vision. As a country, what do we want to achieve with our children? Do we have a vision for the educational system? Do we have a vision as a country? How do these children link into the vision of that country? So basically, it is a strategy and vision challenge that we have as a country, more than a finance challenge. Because even the states that have been able to take the funds that they should take to develop education, what have they done with the funds? It's one thing to access the fund. It's another thing to ask the question, did the funds achieve the impacts they are supposed to achieve?
But if you're looking at that and then looking at how funding affects this education system that we're looking at, and then we have the North, for instance, that is largely judged the most backward in education in the country. Will this amendment and funding address that issue? Say, for instance, the Almajiri schools that we're looking at there.
Okay, so it could help. To have more money to spend on the children would help. The question I still ask is, will the money eventually get to the children? And will it impact the system? If it's just throwing money at things, we might not be able to achieve what we want to achieve. But if we're strategic about the increment, we're strategic about how it affects the lives of those children, how it improves education indeed, then perhaps we would get some marginal thing out of it. And as you mentioned, 26% of national budget supposed to be spent on education. We're spending 6%. We've increased the direct funding to UBEC from 2% to 3%. How serious does it show us as a country?
I want to thank you so much indeed, communication strategist on education, Moturayo Alaka, for talking to us more on the impact analysis of the funding that has been expected from the Senate.